Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back this week for another episode of Joe on Joe Renegades. I still haven't landed. It's not extreme, but I still haven't landed on what we want to do for Renegades. Maybe by the 22nd or 3rd episode, we'll finally get a distinctive scream for that. But I'm also very excited, too, because it's not just that we're doing a watch-along episode with Renegades episode number 6, Return of the Arashikage, part 1. It's also very much going to be a You on Joe episode as well, because my guest is calling in from Arkansas. In fact, the Arkansas State University, Professor of History, Mr. Ed Salo. Ed, welcome to Joe on Joe.
Hey, great to be here. I'm really excited about this. Not often you get to talk about G.I. Joe, with anybody, and especially with, one of these great podcasts, and get to talk about some history-related stuff I did.
Thank you, and I'm very excited as well. And you're right, it isn't often. One of my biggest supporters is my wife, and she'll bring it up at parties, and God bless her. And I just see looks of either awesome, it's a G.I. Joe podcast, or I see looks of what? That's still
yeah.
So it's a real hit or miss when you can actually meet new people in the world that you want to talk G.I. Joe about, for sure.
It is. Yeah, it's one of the things that I'm an old G.I. Joe fan. I remember buying the first comic back in when it came out. I remember being a nerd and, coming from, you can imagine, being a professor. I used to read the newspaper, and I remember seeing ads, well, not ads, news stories about, Hasbro's bringing back G.I. Joe. And I'm like, I'm so excited. I was like 10. And I remember seeing Eagle Force and got confused and thought that was G.I. Joe.
Right.
And then we were going on a family reunion. We were driving. We stopped at a gas station. You used to buy comics at the gas station. And I went in and I saw G.I. Joe #1 there, and I had to buy it. That was
Sure.
the one thing. And I had it forever. And, it was
Dog-eared.
just like, oh, yeah. It's like, and people... Yeah, and then I had to find two, and we had a comic book shop, but it was a really bad comic book shop. The woman really only opened when she wanted to. I mean, and it would be like they're open at this time to this time, and you show up, and I'd have to talk someone into taking me there, and then they wouldn't be there, and they're like, "Well, we're leaving." I'm like, "Just give me 5 minutes, maybe she's late." And so I would have to go to like the local grocery store or, drugstore to try to find. And then for number 11 on, I had the subscription that came in the mail. So I was cool. And those, to me, from about number 11 to, 21, 22, that was like, to me, like the perfect run. It was just like, I loved all the Snake Eyes. With Quinn and Dr. Venom,
Yes,
and all that and everything, and it was just like, to me, that was like the perfect run.
That was a run that introduced a ton of new characters.
All the good characters,
yeah,
and
Destro and Duke and Roadblock. We got into that in 23, was it? Yeah, Major Blood, the Baroness. You thought the Baroness died, but it was really just an excuse to draw her more prettier, I guess.
Yes. So I had, and I even, when I was poor after college student, I bought the last issue and put it in a bag, and I'm like, and it's like traveled with me, and people are like, so hard to find. And I'm like, I still have one.
Yeah, do you do?
And yeah, so
did you keep up your collection all the way through, or did you take a break?
No, I got in college. Sure. And I stopped. I'd pick up one every now and then. And then, I just got taught those ones with like the Transformers and everything. I was like, this isn't good.
Yeah. It did stray a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
And, I was a 20-year-old guy, I wasn't going to go buy G.I. Joe.
I was in the same boat. I've shared this before on this show. I quit about 4 issues before 155, the final issue, and and sales reports took about like 3 months or so to for them to get back to Marvel of how well a book sold back then. So
Yeah.
I always like to take blame for my 1 issue of dropping subscription is the one that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. They're like,
Yeah.
all right, we're done.
But yeah, I'm looking up on my bookshelf now, and I have my, I've got my, I got the whole hardcover compendium, a bunch of
the new stuff?
other ones. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. I had to buy those, and I've got, I've got a few of my like Funko Pops and my prized GI Joe toy. I've got a Mobat that I bought, and I've got the Snake Eyes from issue 2 that I got like at a Kohl's or a Ross's or something in the, get sell for $2 kind of thing. And I'm like, I want this so bad.
So the original Commando Snake Eyes.
Yeah, but it was like, I guess it came out, I don't know, sometime in the 2000s. But yeah,
Oh, okay.
him with the weasel.
Oh, with the actual. Oh, right, with the actual comic book connected to it. Right. Yes. That's cool. Yep.
So
that's really neat. Well, listeners, if you're new to the show, this is what we do. We watch old episodes of the show. We kind of talk over a Mystery Science style, and we find out what you, the guest, love about G.I. Joe. So thank you for coming aboard. If old listeners, we've been going through Renegades. We're on issue 6, episode. I say interchangeable. We're on episode 6 of Renegades. So go back, start at 1 if you're just joining us. If you want to reach out and say hello, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at JoeOnJoePod. You can send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com, which is how I met Ed. And he said, let's talk G.I. Joe. And I was like, first of all, yes, we're going to do that. And second of all, he said, I am a professor of history, and I teach or have taught about G.I. Joe in your class. So, Ed, tell us all about that, and how have you incorporated G.I. Joe into your classroom?
So I'm a history teacher. I do recent American history and historic preservation and stuff like that. And soon after I started, and this is like my second career, I had been working for archaeology firms. And like my first year, they were like, what do you want to teach? And I named off all this stuff, and all the older professors who had seniority were like, oh, they teach that. And I just written at the bottom, comic books in America, because I needed a 5th one.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you're going to teach that. And I was like, that is so awesome. And then I had to figure out how to do it. So I teach this about every other year. And, basically it's American history from 38 with Superman. We go a little before to talk about, but to as close to present as I can. And we do it by looking at comic books, World War II comic books, Vietnam. And then in the 80s, one of the ones I always have them read is G.I. Joe #1, because, I think it's a great explanation of the Reagan kind of military buildup and everything. And I had an opportunity. I presented a paper at a few conferences, and I wrote a chapter for a book that was looking at the Marvel universe. And I wrote about it because I think, and I know that Larry Hama has said, like, it's not supposed to be like a flag waving rah-rah. And I understand that. But to me, it's a great presentation of the U.S. military coming out of the 70s, because, we have the portrayal of the Vietnam vet in like Rambo and, those movies where they're messed up, which, I mean, the war messed people up.
Sure.
And I'm not saying, but, it's like, okay, now we have some veterans who, because, Stalker, Snake Eyes, Hawk, Mainframe, Leatherneck that I can think of. And then you assume a lot of the others were too, like Duke, because of their age. They had the experience. They were seasoned, but they weren't really messed up.
Right.
They weren't. And then, of course, you had all the cool weapons that were kind of based on what we had. The Sky Striker and the F-14, the Mobat and the M1. really wish we had the cool laser and the jetpack. But
Yeah, where's my jump? I'm still
yeah,
I'm still waiting for my promised jump jetpack.
yes. And then it's like the military that they're portraying is diverse. All the people, there were characters of color, and it even when I go back and read stuff, I didn't even realize, like, I didn't really realize that Flash was an Italian American,
Mm-hmm.
or Zap was Hispanic. But it's like there's all this, and then of course you had female characters that were fighting, and doing some research for this. I was reading a book about the real Delta Force, and it was like they experimented with women in the 80s, and I'm like, just like GI Joe.
Well, that
But
that was one of the more interesting things that in reading your paper about the Delta Force stuff. I've read a few takes on the origins of Joe and how they came up with it and all that stuff, which you cover very well in the piece. But you also talk about, it seemed like you drew a line where that Snake Eyes desert mission that they portray where his face gets blasted, that was mirroring the botched Delta Force. Is that?
yeah, that was just like the hostage rescue mission, the Eagle Claw, I think it's the name.
And
That
I'm not super familiar with that. What can you tell us what
Yeah.
that was?
So the Iranian hostages that happened, I think it was 79.
Oh, 79, yeah.
When, yeah, and they held them for 444 days.
Right.
And in 1980, the Carter administration had a plan to go rescue them, which there's a lot of good books on. And it was crazy. I mean, it was like it was all kind of made up as they went along. They didn't have pilots that trained with the commandos. They were going to have to take all these helicopters in the middle of Tehran, storm the embassy, and then take the soccer stadium next door for the helicopters to fly people out. I mean, it was just really crazy.
This was the on paper plan.
Yeah, and they were going to do it, and they had to stop at a refueling site they made in the middle of Iran. And like a bus came along of tourists that they had to stop and hold hostage.
Oh, geez.
Or hold prisoner.
Yeah, right.
And they didn't hurt them; they let them go. But there was problems with a sandstorm. They didn't have enough helicopters, and one of the planes hit one of the helicopters, and there was a big fire. There were several people that died. I can't remember exactly how many. And several people got basically burned to death or injured because of the jet fuel. And, so this wasn't exactly what happened, but
sure.
You had jet fuel, you had helicopters crashing, you had a hostage rescue mission in the desert. It was like everything was kind of there.
Totally. Oh, yeah. I've never heard that parallel drawn before. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And Larry would have absolutely known about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure, he knew. I mean, just like when you read later the portrayals, around when the Joes all die, that was basically like Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Right.
They were. So, yeah, I mean, Larry was taking from what was going on and sort of putting it in the Joe verse. And I think that made it more realistic because, yeah, I mean, Delta Force, which doesn't get as much play or, publicity as like the SEALs, but, Delta Force is not just the Army. Anybody in the military can try out for Delta Force.
Listen, I've seen the Chuck Norris movie. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm ready for that.
Yeah. But I mean, in reality, anybody can be. You don't have to be a special forces. You don't have to be a ranger. You can be, anybody. So yeah, they could have a Marine. They could have a Coast Guardman. They could have, you could be a really good, and they have the intel people. And so, I mean, to me, it's like, that's more also what G.I. Joe is. G.I. Joe isn't just, it's like, hey, we need a computer guy. Boom, there we got mainframe.
And then that relates to Fury Force, which is
right.
Which makes sense that he would have been putting that together around 1980 after this Delta Force stuff was in 1979, the year earlier. Okay. Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, so I mean, it was exciting to talk about the portrayal of, that this was the reinventing of a military man to make the toys, you know, popular. And yeah, it's like we're not fighting the Soviets, we're fighting terrorism. And, coming out of the 70s, terrorism is a big deal.
Yeah.
We think about it 9/11 after. And it's like, no, in the 80s and 70s, there was so many hijacking. And of course, like the Iranian hostage and others. So,
sure. Well, I mean, we had fortunate, I guess, but the sad benefit of it being not in my backyard, right?
right.
So all that was happening at an arm's distance socially from us, so we could look at terrorists as being, cartoonish,
And a lot of the special missions comics,
Mm-hmm.
that deal with, like, I think the first one, and there's a couple others where there's like a hostage thing in
on the helicopter or airplane.
Well, in the first, I can't remember. I think that was the one that was in the back of 50.
Yes, that was the like the tryout.
Yeah.
One.
And then there's like one where there's hostage German terrorists take over a
Yes.
U.S. Army commissary, or
that real robust woman.
Yes.
With acne.
Yes.
Terrible acne. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's all kinds of, like him taking. So to me, a lot of times people were saying like G.I. Joe is very science fiction because Serpentor and all that kind of stuff. But it's like he's grounding this kind of in a lot of reality, and he's making, the military isn't, well, except for Snake Eyes. They are not all super dudes that can do everything. It's, you have to have teams. You've got to pull people's strengths, and everyone gets along. They work together, and they're all professionals. Nobody's just out there, being Rambo. It's like, they're trying to. So to me, that's what drew me to it. I thought they were great stories. The toys, as you get older, I'm going to say anything that's kind of neon is not really in my wheelhouse. But
it's what turned me off as a young I'll say action figure player. And then as a collector, now that I'm older, I look at those and I'm like, those are so weird. I like them because they're weird.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's still, they're still a little hard to stomach. But I do like that they're peculiar.
Yes. I mean, you put G.I. Joe in anything and I'll be excited. But I've got my preferences.
Oh yeah. Well, and you also in your article, you touch on it's kind of a combination of superheroes meets the military.
Yes.
So yes, everyone has their own function, and that's essentially how teams like the Avengers and teams like Justice League all function as well. You have a couple players that can do everything, your Supermans of the world, but then like on a team like Avengers, you have an Iron Man, so he's a technical guy, and there's Thor, who's a little bit of your everyman, Captain America, who's your military strategist, Black Panther, who's kind of like ninja, Hawkeye, who's just who's the bowman target guy. So they do function in that regard, and that's how G.I. Joe worked in the garish costumes, which really helps the visual identification for the kids playing with them.
And I think that it's just not having the toy, like there were so many other kind of toys like that, but the fact that, because in my order, and I know we'll probably talk about this, was one of your questions, is like, to me, the comics were the number one cool way of presenting it. And with that, like the file cards, I liked the cartoon just because I wanted more G.I. Joe, but, they really weren't the most for me. The first, it was like the mini series were good, and then a few episodes. And other than that, it's like, these are kind of rough. The Deke comics, they are like, to me, they are so good because they're so bad. Yeah. And then I watched some of the movies. I watched the Renegades.
Tell me, did you watch G.I. Joe Extreme?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'm going to say this. They're not, I'm sure they're probably easy to find on YouTube at this point, but like they've never been really released professionally. They're good except the animation doesn't have enough money behind it. The concept is
Okay.
really cool. And the stories are actually solid, and they focus on a lot of real character stuff. But the animation is really difficult to enjoy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I liked Renegade. I sort of think I watched part of it when it came out. It was also kind of that time in my life where, I have a 22-year-old son, my wife and I do now. So, it was sort of like, I sort of remember maybe watching it, but it didn't click for him. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like, he was into the Beyblades and all that kind of stuff at the
Yeah.
time. So it was sort of like, I wanted to watch it, but never got around to it. And yeah, I've watched them all on YouTube or whatever. And I mean, it's good. I kind of wish they would have been able to continue it.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it as we go.
Yeah.
I do think
And
that it is missing the crazy factor, which is what I like to refer to as what I really loved about Sunbow. It's the talking parrots factor, like
Yes.
just this level of oddity, and whether it's visually like that, because it's such a muted toned look, nothing really pops there, or that it's sci-fi, it's based on stuff that's not real, but there's no real craziness, there's not giant vegetables growing in the city.
Or they're not fighting like ghosts that
or iceberg, is it iceberg or iceberg, I think, turning into a whale. That kind of stuff doesn't happen in this. So I think that maybe it might have been what was missing from this particular stew.
And as an old comic book fan, I sort of have that feeling where I've gone through enough writers changing on certain comics that I understand it's like, it's okay that, like the Hawkeye I loved in the 80s isn't the same Hawkeye now.
Right.
And because Hawkeye was my man in comics. That was that first miniseries back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Forming the West Coast Avengers, like the bravado. The bravado on Clint Barton back then. All his solo Avengers adventures, like, he was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, and that's sort of how G.I. Joe is. I'm like, the IDWs, all those that came out that weren't Larry written, I'm like, it's okay. I mean, it's other people, like the Energon universe, I'm loving, because it's like they're taking it, but they're playing with it different.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the way I grew up watching, reading all the G.I. Joe doesn't have to be the only way.
Yep.
So that's what I appreciate about Renegades. I'm like, the stuff is there, and especially the episode that we watched. The stuff is there, but it's just kind of different.
Yeah.
Enough that it's not.
Yeah, it's fresh. It's fresh for old eyes, but also exciting enough for new eyes.
Yeah, I'm not like, well, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow aren't in Vietnam, so I can't appreciate this. But I'm like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, I do have some questions about this origin.
Okay.
I do have some questions as we get into this episode, because there are, having said that, and I agree with you, not everything, everything needs to be reinvented, and not everything is always going to be for you, whatever it is. It's always going to change, and we should, as malleable humans, we should be able to appreciate differences and nuances, but then also, look
if it's done well.
If it's done well, right? Exactly it. That's exactly it, though. Using that kind of knowledge to then, critique it in an intelligent way versus, I don't like it. Kind of look at it and go, like we said with Renegades. Like, for me, what it is missing, I am absolutely enjoying it, but it is missing a little bit of the crazy factor to it. And that's a decision they made, and who knows, like. Maybe that actually not doing that would have propelled it to be, a huge 5-year run cartoon. I have no idea, so it's not necessarily a critique. It's just, or I guess it is a critique, but it's not a slam. It's more of a, let's look at what's different, and how does that impact your enjoyment or kind of what you want out of the property, kind of a thing. Because I do think it's really well made. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
It's a very well made. The voices are great. The animation looks really good. yeah, so I'm really, really enjoying digging into this stuff. So, Ed, listeners, we're going to watch episode 6 of Renegades, readily available on your YouTube. So if you don't have a copy of it, just go to YouTube, punch it in. It's Return of the Arashikage Part 1. And, you know, just watch along with us and listen to us, enjoy the show with you. And y'all ready, Ed?
I'm ready. I've got it queued up here, and
Awesome.
I'm all ready.
All right. Well, Ed, listeners, why don't you watch along with me? We'll do it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Nice moon, Japanese moon, I'm assuming.
Yes, this is how I figured their dojo looked like, their thing, and then boom, it's like, wow, all the tech. I like some tech ninjas.
Yeah. Now, did you notice? I don't know who this
dude is. And I couldn't tell if that was a tattoo on his head or if that was a reflection.
Well, it looks like a tattoo, but it's only a third of the I Ching.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, I don't. I mean, that's obviously intentional. So does it mean? Yeah. It doesn't mean his name is just Ara and not Shikage, or does it mean like he hasn't earned the full tattoo? Probably he hasn't earned the full tattoo, I would imagine.
But
did you notice real quick? Did you notice before we leave this, they had a bunch of Cobra symbols that were crossed off?
Yes.
Was that was just from Breaker's website, right?
I think so.
Okay.
That's what I took it from. Yeah. Okay.
There was a second where I was thinking that was part of like whatever Operation Storm Shadow's up to. Which is interesting that in this iteration, and we'll spoil it a little bit as we go, they're making him they're saying that the ninjas are bad guys, like from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That they, and I mean, I kind of always wondered that was like, in the comics, it's like, well, what were the ninjas doing? What was the clan doing during the time that Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow were training and everything?
Well, I think Tunnel Rat just said it. It makes him a spy, a saboteur, an assassin. None of those 3 things are considered "quote unquote" good.
No, and I'm growing up in the '80s, ninjas were the coolest thing ever. And I'm like
100%, yeah.
And it's like, I just don't think ninjas are as cool now as they were. And then boom, Snake Eyes giving everybody the gas.
Yeah.
And I love the fact
you know what Snake Eyes did? Snake Eyes gave him the gas face. You have to go third base, and he gave him the gas face on that.
Oh, yes.
So they're driving, listeners, they're driving in the car, and Snake Eyes just kind of literally knocks out his entire team so that he can take them somewhere remote and secluded, which we learned
Yeah, and I love that it was the cabin.
Yes,
just like in the comics.
It's a great use of the cabin.
And it's no like Zartan, thing that's really just like high tech, but with a hologram. It's an actual cabin.
Yep.
I mean, it's like doesn't have secret rooms and like all the computers. No, it's like it's a cabin.
It's a cabin. And later though, they do say, and he seems okay with it, right? I guess it's before. At some point, they go, "We're just going to drive into town," and I'm like, "You don't remember going there? How are you going to? How are you going to find your way, quote unquote, into town?" But I like it, and I like that he's seemingly bringing them up here to kind of train them, or not. We don't really know. Maybe he got a message. From as we're about to learn, Jinx is up here.
Yes.
There's a lot going on. And actually, this is a pretty complicated episode as far as storytelling wise. There's a lot of flashbacks in it. It's a lot of
clear.
Who do you trust?
More than I can say from my head.
Yeah, I think this one and the next one are some of my favorites because it is really complicated. It's not, I even started like, are they gonna make Snake Eyes really a bad guy? Maybe
right.
Is he gonna not be? And
especially because if he joined them when they were a bad guy ninja clan, my brain was going like, well, why did he want to join them?
Yeah, Yeah, and
Like,
it wasn't like a connection with Storm Shadow, like
right?
in the comics where they were both a nom. It's
Yeah.
like it's just this dude wants to join. Yeah,
Join the bad
okay.
guys, sure. Now here we get Jinx is
Jinx.
unveiled for the first time. She looks great. She
Yes,
and
I love her costume there. It's
yeah,
better than I've got an ad.
no, it's yeah.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of red going on, and she and Scarlet are revealed. Well, Scarlet is revealed to have been an apprentice of Snake Eyes.
Yes.
So that's how they met. That's how Storm Shadow identified Snake Eyes from recognizing Shauna. So why did Snake Eyes never tell Shauna about Jinx? You know, like he's keeping his own counsel, right?
Yeah, and and then I think that's also one of those things. With Snake Eyes, there's always that mystery because he can't speak. Even in the comic book, you always wonder kind of, and then adding this, and I like the jealousy between the two, like trying to be, who's the favorite apprentice.
It's great. But I will say, as we say in the comic book, one, no one learns ASL, and two, Snake Eyes, you can't write something down.
Well, I mean, yeah. If you would think that they would have figured something out.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people who can't speak in this world. They're not all mysterious ninjas.
Maybe they are. We don't know.
Well, you know what? You're not wrong. I guess you're right. Yeah, we don't really know. Maybe they are, and they're just not telling us. It's like when my friend said, talking about Duke getting stabbed through the heart by Serpentor. He goes, "How do you know he didn't live? Have you ever seen someone stabbed through the heart by a living snake? No, you haven't. Maybe it doesn't kill you."
And I love this where he's trying to teach them, the martial arts, and I mean, it's just no one's taking it serious, really. It's
I like that they're just they end up just focusing on like the tenets of it,
Yes.
and because he's whipping them into shape because they're going to be on this road trip saving the world, and he realizes they need some skills, even though they're highly trained dudes.
And I think that's, and to me, that's actually the right way, because it's like they're all skilled, but they need that overarching strategic view.
He's asking us to find our voices through our training by watching. And
I like Tunnel Rat in this. Tunnel Rat, I always thought was a cool toy, and I just never thought he got any real play in the comics unless they were going into the Cobra consulate building, going through the sewers. They're like, okay. And
I agree with you. I think he was an awesome toy and great in the movie and stuff. I always wonder if because he was kind of based on Larry, if that was a reason why Larry didn't use him that much, a little
maybe
like, would have been a little self-serving to be like G.I. Joe featuring Tunnel Rat,
yeah,
because he is a great character and he's got great visuals, cool gear, a neat, like, infiltrative job, a funny, quirky personality. Like, he's got everything that's a recipe for a fan favorite for sure. So now we're getting into flashbacks, and we're seeing that.
This is where
I
like this.
It's great. They're in this Japanese town, and Storm Shadow, who is very skinny. Storm Shadow is not a robust ninja. He is.
But, he's got like some big delts.
Yeah. But Storm Shadow's fighting these competing ninjas, and he's doing great. Like he's absolutely holding his own and stuff. But he is still just a kid. I think they said she said she was like 8 or 10, and they were in their late teens. So I would imagine they're like 10 years older than her at this point.
Yeah. And I mean,
I soon discovered why.
How many times is there just a big ninja fight in there?
Right.
In a market.
So out of nowhere, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Snake Eyes shows up.
Yes.
Now,
that is one of the questions.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, why is he here?
Right. So I watch these in order. So this is a real question. You've seen the second one. Do they ever explain what he's doing there?
Not that I remember. No.
Yeah. So what is Snake Eyes doing there?
Yeah, it's just
I'll bet you oh, I'll bet you in this world he's the son of like a military guy and a native Japanese woman or something like that. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Like there was a name for them. I remember after the war, like it was a source of shame for some people, because our soldiers would impregnate, local women and leave them behind. There's a term for that. I wonder if that's maybe where they were going with this. Like maybe that's what he was up to.
I was kind of sad that we didn't get all the masters. We didn't get the hard master, the soft master. Yeah.
This guy had a run in with Wolverine though.
Yeah.
It is specifically 3 claws across his face.
Yes. Which, yeah.
Yeah. So he gets named Snake Eyes because he's what do they say? He has steely eyes or focus.
Yes, like a yeah. So.
And he's like, and you're a terrible gambler.
I'm like, yeah. And
now,
like, wow, I want to pick up the sword.
Right. This is a weird. So a little bit of this is I think adds to some of the confusion. So one, Tommy is
a new life requires
really
a new name.
He's an enemy to Snake Eyes. In the flashback, we see it. Duke thinks he accepted it. She later explains, no, they were kind of rivals.
Yeah.
Like what did she say? Like in a Cain and Abel kind of way. But Snake Eyes tries to touch the Arashikage sword, and Tommy says, don't do that. Blah blah blah. But Snake Eyes got the tattoo really quick.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? Yeah, like he didn't earn it. It didn't seem that he'd earned it.
Yeah, I figured, yeah.
And
I would see it be like, yeah, you'd go for several months or whatever. And
right.
Get to a certain level of training. Now, I guess you just walk in and they're like,
yeah, and
maybe go over to the tattooist.
And maybe that's because, and I mean this like, seriously, maybe that's because they are bad guys. So they're like, if you're going to join us, the first thing we're going to do is brand you. Because then that marks you for life as being part of the bad guys.
Yeah,
you know,
a gang. Or,
like being jumped into a gang, right? That's the only thing I could make sense of that thing. And where I think in a lot of the other iterations of this, we see where it is an earned title, or earned, an earned image. You graduate and you could wear their clan thing, but in this case, they are bad guys. So we see yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, more of Jinx and Scarlet kind of vying who's the best apprentice.
And Hawk or Duke rather sees that Jinx was going through Snake Eyes' stuff.
You're not like
she's looking for something, and she's looking for the sword, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe so.
Nah, I'm just.
So and that's part of the whole like mysteries within a mysteries part of this episode. Where you never
like the fact. Yeah. I like this part where she's hiding and you think it's just going to be he didn't know she was there.
Yeah.
Duke's like,
yeah.
And anticipation of danger.
Right.
Boom.
It shows that Duke's capable,
Yeah.
And
it's like, I'm paying attention.
Right.
And then he still gets his butt kicked.
Yeah, so now he's going to get the rest of the origin from her. So this is where we learned that, they were like brothers, but it was Cain and Abel. So kind of like this, she says both were vying to be top student, but they're criminals.
Right.
So they were both trying to be the top bad guy. So Snake Eyes was trying to be a bad guy. That's what she's saying here. Which is weird.
What were you looking for?
Me.
Or should I ask Snake Eyes?
It's also weird to hear him speak too, which
exactly
I get it. It's pre-injury. We get that later, but
why'd you two leave your?
And that's one thing that I still have trouble with in the comic now, that he can speak. It still just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I think that's just a temporary. I mean, I think that'll be a temporary status quo thing. I think after, for my money, after 40 years of that version of him not being able to speak, I'm kind of enjoying this different version and see where it takes us. But I have I like everything else. I have a feeling something terrible is going to happen to him.
I figure he's going to do something to save. And I don't think it's probably going to be Scarlet. I think it'll be like Dawn.
Well, yeah, I don't love Dawn as a character. Not for any weird reasons of like, I don't like girl ninjas. I just don't really care about her. So that would make sense for it to be her, especially because they kind of share a brain. And
that's why I figure it's like him.
Yeah. But they made statues of her and stuff, so I don't know if they'd kill her off as far as the property goes, because she doesn't.
No, I think
she
he's
doesn't
gonna
exist.
like, save her.
Yeah.
I think he's going to save her,
but get blasted in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably right. Well, we have three Snake Eyes running around.
Yeah.
We're at maximum Snake Eyes right now.
And so they're just like beating on Snake Eyes, the punishment with the reeds.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the reed punishment was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. But you know what that was? That was mirroring, that moment is mirroring when he and Storm Shadow in the comic book had the sword fight and Snake Eyes let him win to not lose face. So that's the same. So they're taking the same emotional storytelling beats, but they've reimagined it here. So she runs in and she sees Snake Eyes over the dead Hardmaster, and he runs out. His throat,
and he's holding his throat.
Yeah,
it's and I watched the second part, and I want to say, I thought this was almost. I thought this was just as good as the comic version of the death. I mean, I thought the comic version of the death got a little too soap opera-y with, it was Zartan. Well, actually, Firefly was involved.
I ignore the Firefly stuff. I just straight up do. I do not acknowledge the Firefly-ness of it all. And I know that's silly. That's dumb of me to do that because it's canon, but I don't like the Firefly-ness.
I don't like it either.
Yeah, they were putting a hat on the top of 3 other hats at that point.
I mean, the Zartan one, I was like,
Well, I like the Zartan one because that was sort of embedded there from the start. They talked about that mysterious person. So you assume it's Zartan.
Yeah.
And then later on, they're like, no, it's Firefly.
Oh, and then, she's got the tattoo. Jinx is bad. And she breaks down, forgive me.
Yeah.
And Duke's like,
So now we learn what brought her here. So she has to return the blade.
Yeah. And he's just like, hey, kid got a tattoo, so what?
Yeah, and if it is to be jumped into a gang, then why is the one dude only got half of it? Like, is he not fully jumped in? Like, these are the things that keep me up.
Well, maybe he's not like a made man, maybe it's like,
you're right. That's probably it.
He's in, but he's not.
Yeah, that is probably
somebody or whatever.
I like this bit. I like this bit now. So they realize that Storm Shadow is on his way here, and Snake Eyes is like, immediately, you gotta go.
Yeah.
This is Duke's like, take her down the mountain. How do they get down the mountain? They don't know where they're at.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to ask Snake Eyes either.
Yeah. So Storm Shadow's there. He's about to take down everybody. I am not in love with the headgear that they give Storm Shadow once we see him.
No, I don't like the fact that it's kind of like, it looks like it's not put on right.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It's really loose, like it's almost like he got it at one of those stores.
It's like Temu Storm Shadow.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit him. It makes him look like a teenager still. And Snake Eyes looks like a grown man,
I'm assuming, I think Snake Eyes is about the same age as like anyone else.
Well, they have, this is in the flashbacks. Jinx was, 12, 13, whatever. And now this is 10 years later than that.
Yeah.
So they're all grown men. With this look for Storm Shadow, he looks like a child.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of that. Obviously, it's a dope look, but I don't think it works for what they're trying to
I like the rest of the costume, just not the face.
Yeah.
And then Snake Eyes costume, I really like.
Oh, yeah. Snake Eyes costume's good looking. So in the flashback, in his flashback, we've got so many flashbacks in this, we see that Storm Shadow walked in on Snake Eyes over Hardmaster's dead body. So Storm Shadow thought Snake Eyes killed the Hardmaster, and Storm Shadow threw the shuriken that sliced Snake Eyes' throat and took away his vocal abilities. But at least that's the story he's telling to Jinx.
Yeah.
And he's going to say that, look, you were looking for the Arashikage sword, but Snake Eyes had it in a hidden compartment the whole time. The blade of Arashikage.
And I like that sword a lot.
That's a cool sword. And that's that's the part there that always seems to get. It's always the fatal flaw. Like Storm Shadow thinks that Snake Eyes took the blade just to make Storm Shadow look bad. And that's that fatal flaw that a lot of bad guys have in a lot of these stories. Like, you did it just to make me look bad. And I don't think that's why Snake Eyes would have stolen the sword.
No. I mean, I think, yeah,
No, I don't
to
believe
keep it out, and then Duke
tries, and he does not do well.
Yeah,
He tried,
and I like that aspect of this ending. Is like, they're going to be fine, but yeah, you got Snake Eyes beaten, you got Duke beaten, you got everybody.
The cabin is on fire. Like, and also
like any continued.
Yeah, like any good Snake Eyes cabin, it gets lit on fire. Like, I love it.
Yes. Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
I want them to have like some kind of like story off of it where someone just says something like, yeah, there's that old forest fire that happened up in the and everyone's like, yeah, it's that old crazy man's cabin keeps burning and catching everything on fire.
Yeah, and he comes back and he rebuilds it and finds another wolf. Do you know, do we get timber in this series?
I can't remember. I was going to say that's one of the things I loved in the comics is when they're having the Snake Eyes origin and Hawk and Stalker going up, and they're like, "Oh, it's that guy up there. He's a werewolf."
Yeah.
And there's a wolf, and Hawk's like, "Snake Eyes."
Yep.
It's just like,
I agree. I love that. Like, you had Runaway, the baddest dude in the toy line. The breakaway hero. I think they knew that from the first V1 Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
And their instinct was to give him a wolf.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I remember the first two toys I got were Grunt and Flash. And I thought Flash was so cool because the laser and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got Snake Eyes, and I thought he was so cool because he had the Uzi and, And then the second one with the wolf, I was like, and the sword, I was just like, there could be no cooler. And the backpack was even cool. It was like everything about Snake Eyes is cool.
Everything. And let's throw a wolf in.
Yeah.
It's not even like V3 where they're like, let's give, we're 5 years into the line and let's give Dusty an animal, It's the coolest dude. Now here's a wolf. I just love that. Absolutely love that.
And I wish they had given Scarlet like a better, I always wanted there to be like kind of a cooler Scarlet too, where she looks more.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen the classified one, the recent one, that looks pretty cool, but.
All the classified stuff looks great. Yeah. I think, they've moderned up the classified stuff, but you're right. She's very high on that list of missed opportunities for the old school stuff. She had her OG, which is obviously classic, but not, there were the head sculpt, let's just say, is not, she's not the greatest. But then she goes from that right to the garish green and yellow ninja outfit, which is one of the worst outfits in the whole line. Like, not even just the ninjas, of the whole line. And she never really got her due as a 3 3/4.
No. And I mean, when they brought in Lady J, like the Lady J was so much better.
Yeah, but even Lady J never got it. She never even got a second look.
No.
Which is crazy.
The cartoon version, the cartoon Lady J was so much better than
she was super popular too, so it's like, how did they never do another version of Lady J? And I it's, realistically, girls' toys don't sell, blah blah blah. Yeah. But like those two were champions on the show. They were huge. I get CoverGirl. They didn't really use her on the show, and whatever. And Jinx came later in the line, so you're like, okay. But like those CoverGirl or Scarlet and Lady J, I never understood Why Lady J never got a second one, and why Scarlet never got anything cooler than she did.
No, I can't either. But yeah, Snake Eyes was, I've got the Snake Eyes classified, him and the wolf, the big.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I have that in my office at work. I have a little G.I. Joe shrine in my office.
Do your students ask about it?
Yeah, they all know. Like, so yeah, you go in and I have my Mobat. I have a his tank. What else do I have? I've got a bunch of those fake Lego series.
Oh yeah, right.
Like Big Lots or something, just for the art.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got the Destro, the Snake Eyes, and those big statues. And actually, right now, I'm sitting in my home in my office, and on one side of my desk, I have the Cobra Commander helmet, and the other side, I have Grogu. So it's sort of like a yin and yang. But yeah, so I've got all that, and then I have a few figures and stuff there, and yeah, it's like my little G.I. Joe table. I can go over there and just be like,
"You're my kind of guy. I like all this." So what we do on the show when we watch episodes is I like to get you a code name. And it's about, like, if you were a member of G.I. Joe or Cobra, you don't have to be, you could choose either side. What would your specialty be? And then what would your code name be? And it would be like you, Ed Salo, Arkansas professor of history at Arkansas State University. What would you do if you were enlisted to the G.I. Joe team? What would you want to be?
I mean, of course I'd want to be a ninja commando, but realistically, I'd probably be like end up being their historian. Military units have historians. I'd be their historian, and we would come up with some kind of bad footnote or something as my
wait. Okay, first of all, Footnote is the best name. That's a great name.
Yeah,
you are absolutely Footnote. Are you kidding me?
Okay,
Footnote is amazing. That's an amazing name. And I'm going to take you a step further. I'm going to say you're the Arashikage historian. You're that dude in the chair. I didn't even think of this when we were watching it. You're one of the dudes who's like, you help manage the Arashikage history and keep all the stuff straight and in order.
I would take that job, and I am bald, so that would work. I've got a T-shirt with that with the symbol on it, just that, and it's like one of those where I've got a whole bunch of T-shirts that unlike a bunch of professors, I don't dress up. I was walking across campus, and I'm the chair of the history department, and I had a guy who was in his 40s, and I'm in my 50s.
Mm-hmm.
He came up to me and he was like, "Man, it's so great to see another old guy here on campus." And he thought I was a student, and I was like, I wasn't going to burst his bubble, because he was like, "Man, I'm in biology, and it's so great to see another old guy here." He's like, "What are you in?" I'm like, "History." He goes, "What do you want to do with it?" I'm like, "I don't know." And I walked over to the library where my wife works, and I told her the whole thing, and I was like, "Do you think I need to dress better?" And then I'm like, "I'm not going to."
No,
I'm cool.
Yeah. Do
it. So
my G.I. Joe t-shirt collection has skyrocketed. I wear them as frequently as I can, and inevitably I have someone give me a head nod or what's up? It's great. And I love that you're bringing it in the college campus, setting.
I was working in Japan, and I had my big G.I. Joe, just like the G.I. Joe logo with the, stripes out from it, sort of like you, Joe.
Yeah.
And I had that on, and I was just walking through Tokyo with that. And I'm like, I hope a ninja doesn't attack me.
They sell shirts like that with the Japanese version, because they sold them over there.
Oh,
and it is this Japanese stylized, it's the logo. I don't know what the proper terminology for the language of the writing is, but yeah, they sell those t-shirts. It looks pretty cool.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, I've got that, and then some of my favorite comic book shops I had that, but yeah, those are the ones that that and the logo, and I'm like, I don't want to wear it too much because I'm afraid I'm going to get something on it.
Yeah.
I have to order another one because you know, but yes, I love, you know, to me, that's, you know, I love G.I. Joe, even the toys and everything, even probably after the time I shouldn't have in my teens, you know, it was like, yeah, I was like, you know, finding girls and all that stuff. But, you know, part of me is still like, well, I'm gonna walk through Kmart and just like see what's
Always.
out there.
That's the
And
thing.
just be like,
Yeah. I was aware. I didn't buy them, and so they weren't burned in my brain. But I saw all the later era stuff. I would always go into KB Toys, never not going into KB Toys and going into Toys R Us and checking out the line. I always did it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, everyone's like, oh, the flag. I'm like, if the space shuttle set or the whale, those were like, to me, the
Yeah.
greatest toys. I had the Sky Striker, and I had the Dragonfly, I had the Mobat. And the more I think about it, I was like, I didn't have any of the Cobra vehicles except for like the Fang. I never got a Hiss or anything till later. And I'm like, yeah, that was kind of, yeah, that they were totally outgunned. But yeah, you know, just to go to the different department stores and I'm just gonna walk through and see what they have.
Yeah.
And I've always loved military history and all the aspects. And that was the other cool thing. It's like, you know, I would just go over the cards and be like, oh man, you know, he went to this school, and I'm like, I know where that is. And that's
cool.
You know, and some of the stuff, you know, Larry, of course, made up, but some of the stuff, you know, like, wow, yeah, that's really cool. They actually did that. And, you know, and then like one of my favorites is Flint. So I think, you know, Flint to me is like the fact he's a Rhodes Scholar and a helicopter pilot. I'm like, he's Chris Christopherson. And I'm like, this would be like Chris Christopherson if he joined the Joe team. And, you know, I just thought he was so cool. And you know, Breaker came from Gatlinburg, and I was, you know, I'm close. I grew up close to that. So
cool.
Yeah, it's great. And, you know, I've been listening to podcasts for, well, since I got my first iPad or iPod, whatever, back in, it's been about 20 years now. And, you know, it's like, I listen to news, pro wrestling, and comic books and G.I. Joe podcasts, and that's about it. And that's it.
I love it, man. Well, footnote, thank you for listening to this show.
Thank you so much.
And reaching out and being a part of this show. It means the world to me when this happens.
Oh, I was so excited all day about this.
Oh man, I love it so much. Ed Salo, professor of history at Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. If you're hearing this and you're on campus, give him a yo Joe for sure.
Yeah, come on over to History Building.
Yeah,
Humanity.
Absolutely,
4007.
Absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed having you on the show today, Ed.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you footnote. Have a great day. And
now
you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.